Hello, dear friends, partners, and like-minded individuals from Bulgaria. Today I am with you, Yulia Korobova, a doctor in the third generation. For 30 years, I have been practicing integrative medicine, holistic medicine, which involves a comprehensive approach to the person. In my practice, I use homeopathy, homotoxicology, bioenergy therapy, homeosynergy, and of course, methods of traditional Chinese medicine for restoring and maintaining health. About 30 years ago, a unique state project was implemented in China. For the first time in the history of global development, in the history of the development of technologies for the production of biologically active supplements, a completely new stage began. This is the production of liquid, concentrated preparations from the contents of higher fungi cells. They are also known as fast-acting bioimmunoenergy regulators. These fungi are well known in the Chinese pharmacopoeia. These include Chinese cordyceps, Lingzhi ganoderma, shiitake, the fragrant mushroom, and Hericium, lion's mane. Chinese science, using modern technologies such as vacuum concentration and extraction of contents from fungal cells, supercritical extraction, high-performance column chromatography, vacuum concentration under conditions of low and high temperatures has made it possible to create unprecedentedly fast and effective biologically active supplements of a new generation. Why is this so unique? Because the production uses a unique formula based on traditional Chinese medicine, an original formula that is the property of the corporation, Vieda. This is high-quality, unique raw material. That is, mushrooms of the highest quality. Not only the mycelium of the mushrooms is used, but also the fruiting body and spores. And, of course, high-tech production with a unique system of control and quality and unique technologies. Therefore, the result is a completely unique product that is natural and effective. And this product has a systemic effect on the body, which allows for very quick regulation of the functioning of all body systems. Such systems as the immune system, the hormonal system, the nervous system, and of course, the basic metabolism, protein, fat, carbohydrate, and mineral metabolism. And compared to other products from dry forms, dry preparations, the preparations used in the form of elixirs have very high effectiveness and speed of action. When it comes to traditional Chinese medicine, its main goals are achieving immortality and longevity, and healing the patient before the disease appears. In ancient China, doctors received their salary for ensuring that their charges did not fall ill, and if there was any ailment, the funds spent on treating the patient were deducted from the salary of the Chinese medicine doctor. Therefore, the main task of Chinese medicine was to prevent any disease and to stop its development. And by testing liquid forms, elixirs, using the vegetative resonance test method, which I use in my practice, this testing showed the high bioavailability of the Vieda Corporation's products, as well as proof that they work on any organism, because they include several types of action. This includes the regulation of processes within the body, cleansing of the body, cleansing of the gastrointestinal tract, cleansing of liquid mediums, cleansing of the lymph, cleansing of the blood, and cleansing of vital organs, as well as replenishing with necessary nutritional components that ensure the full functioning of the body. I would like to talk about the causes of diseases from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine. The most important thing that traditional Chinese medicine states is that any disease, no matter which one we consider, and regardless of the stage the disease is in, from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, the main cause is a deficiency of qi energy and blood. That is, if the body lacks qi, which is a concept used in traditional Chinese medicine, then the body does not have the resources or potential to cope with its functions, leading to a dysregulation of the body. Against this background, symptoms appear, indicating that there are certain processes of disorder related to the deficiency of qi, o, and blood. As a result, the balance of yin and yang is disrupted. These are the main concepts in Chinese medicine, which they use in their diagnostics. And this deficiency of qi and blood, the imbalance, often leads to disruptions in the movement of qi and blood, what we call a block or stagnation, which also has its own symptoms. And this deficiency of qi often leads to blocks, stagnation of qi in the body. And this facilitates the penetration of pathogenic qi into the body, or the manifestation of pathogenic qi from within the body. Therefore, the first task that unique systemic action preparations must address is to regulate the functioning of internal organs and replenish qi energy, because if there is enough qi, the body has the resources to handle the internal regulation process. The next step is to remove stagnation, cleanse the body and mind, and nourish the body with the necessary nutrients. Therefore, any process that arises in the body, you must clearly understand that it is a lack of resources to cope with some ailment. And from this arises the importance and significance of wonderful products called elixirs with bioimmunoenergy regulating effects. Why? Because they have a high bioavailability impact on the body. They regulate the immune system's protective functions, the immunity, and restore a person's energy. And that is why they are called bioimmunoenergy regulators. Well, let's now delve into each product in detail. Products with an emphasis on regulation. Which products belong to this group? First and foremost, it is of course the elixir in front of you, the elixir. This elixir contains several types of mushrooms in its composition. First and foremost is cordyceps. Undoubtedly, it includes Ganoderma lucidum, lingzi, and of course, shiitake. Lentinus idodes, a nutritious aromatic mushroom, which is present in a specific ratio, and thanks to advanced extraction technologies, allows for the acquisition of those very nutritional components found in the mushroom cells. Because if we start giving people mushrooms in their dry form, the body's ability to break down the hard shell of the mushroom and access its contents is very low. Therefore, the bioavailability of such consumption is very low. In elixirs, thanks to advanced technologies, a very high bioavailability of the beneficial components inside the mushroom cells is achieved. And let's talk a little about the products that are included. That is, what their value is and what makes them unique. If we talk about cordyceps, well, cordyceps contains a lot of beneficial components, many active substances. One of them is cordycepin, which has anti-tumor effects. B, because in its action, it inhibits tumors. It also affects viruses, including serious ones, like the hepatitis virus and the human immunodeficiency virus. In addition, it affects fat metabolism and reduces cholesterol levels. And this component strengthens yin and supports yang. Speaking of cordycepin, it has anti-edema effects, meaning it regulates water balance. It improves the properties of the lymphatic system and actively influences the replenishment of energy in vital organs that ensure a long and sustained life. That is, it replenishes the energy of the kidneys. When we talk about the kidneys, the replenishment involves the primordial energy of the kidneys and yin energy. And thanks to this energy, which is stored in the right kidney, a long and healthy life is ensured. This is the energy that a child receives from the father's seed and the mother's egg. And this energy is stored in the right kidney. And as a result of stress, disrupted ecology, numerous pathogenic factors, and a tense sedentary lifestyle, a person can gradually lose this energy. This also happens with chronic diseases when the primordial energy, which is the reserve and guarantee of a long, healthy life, becomes depleted. Additionally, an unhealthy lifestyle disrupts a person's biorhythms. Because the main yin energy is replenished as a result of a full sleep at a specific time, from 11 at night to 5 in the morning, when this energy is replenished by the kidneys. That's it. And modern people with artificial lighting lose the ability to have a deep, full sleep during which yin energy is replenished. And already young people from an early age losing this energy have many chronic diseases, reduced immunity, and dysfunction of vital organs. So cordyceps helps replenish yin energy and the primordial energy of the kidneys, lungs, spleen, liver, and heart. That is, these are all yin organs which serve as a reservoir or battery, as a result of which our body exists and that functions fully. In addition, cordyceps contains cordycepic acid, which also has the unique property of regulating fat metabolism, reducing cholesterol, strengthening bones and ligaments, lowering intracranial pressure, and having a strengthening effect on the immune system. And of course, we must mention the polysaccharides, which are a valuable component of cordyceps. Their uniqueness lies in the fact that they affect the function of lymphocytes. The main immune cells promote their maturation and have a powerful impact on immunity, as well as influence fat and carbohydrate metabolism, regulating cholesterol and blood sugar levels. In other words, the serious diseases that the modern population faces. This is related to atherosclerosis, the prevention of strokes, heart attacks, and the prevention of diabetes. Adenosine, one of the components of cordyceps, is an energy substance that has antibacterial and antiviral effects, prevents thrombosis, meaning the formation of clots in the circulatory system, influences the active synthesis of collagen, prevents aging, and promotes powerful tissue regeneration. Therefore, the indications for prescribing cordyceps are disorders related to processes in the lungs. These include inflammatory processes and congestive inflammations in the lungs. Because if there is a deficiency of yin energy in the lungs, processes related to the disruption of the lungs' barrier functions occur. In Chinese medicine, the lungs are considered the source of Wei Qi, the protective energy that is located externally. Because the lungs, skin, and large intestine form a single system, they belong to the metal element, the dryness element. And of course, when the energy of the lungs, the main energy resource of this element, is disrupted, the protective functions are compromised, and any pathogenic factor can easily penetrate the body when Wei Qi is disturbed. These factors include wind and cold, which are associated with penetration through the points of the external meridians, through the points of the skin. Therefore, cordyceps strengthens the energy of the lungs. And this is a natural prevention for any diseases of the lungs and upper respiratory tract, as well as those related to the nasopharynx, the larynx, the bronchi, the trachea, and of course, the lungs themselves. And cordyceps replenishes the energy of the kidneys. We have already talked about the kidneys. Of course, it nourishes the spleen. In Chinese medicine, the spleen is associated with the earth element. This is the element that is connected with replenishing, the nutritional key. This includes the spleen, pancreas, and stomach, and it is responsible for the condition of the mucous membranes in our body. And the mucous membrane is also an internal barrier against the penetration of viruses or bacteria and foreign allergens. Therefore, our internal immunity depends on how well the spleen functions. And of course, when cordyceps strengthens the spleen and pancreas, it affects the immune system. It influences the absorption of nutrients and the replenishment of energy within our body. Therefore, if we are talking about diseases, then of course, you should always mention, no matter what the disease is, if there is a deficiency of Qi in any of the organs, lungs, spleen, kidneys, liver, or heart, we always need to find that connection, which is in our wonderful elixir. That is, it contains all the components that allow nourishing the Qi of many yin organs at once. And so this is that unique, amazing elixir, which is why it is called the elixir of life, the elixir of youth, as it nourishes and regulates all the organs simultaneously. And it doesn't matter what kind of disorder or disease it is, whether acute or chronic, or even severe when there are serious damages, multi-level damages to energy, organs, and systems. This is that unique, amazing product that will help you raise the energy level and assist the body in dealing with the existing disorders. If we are also talking about the kidneys, then of course the kidneys are that unique organ responsible for the yin within. They are called the kidneys, the organ of eternal bliss, eternal life. The duration of our life is, of course, also the primordial energy, which is related to the urogenital area, the transmission of genetic information, and the health of future generations. What affects the sexual function in men and women? The pelvic organs, and in men, the urogenital area. There. And if we talk about the kidneys as a unique system, that regulates the entire hormonal system within our body, and the very common problems with thyroid dysfunction in women, and to a lesser extent in men, which are related to autoimmune diseases. Then, of course, the insufficiency of primordial energy in the kidneys, the yin energy, requires immediate replenishment of this resource in order to start regulating, replenishing, and normalizing the functioning of the hormonal system. Moreover, cordyceps, which is indeed part of the elixir, is a natural antibiotic. Therefore, all inflammatory diseases, including chronic ones, if we talk about the kidneys again, the kidneys control the bone marrow, which contributes to blood production, and the function of hematopoiesis, that is, blood production, are often disrupted by such impacts as radio and chemotherapy. And with the use of this elixir, the effects of not only radio and chemotherapy are minimized, but also the functions of the immune system are restored, which is very important for people who are already undergoing therapy for oncological diseases, as radio and chemotherapy have a damaging effect on the bone marrow function related to blood formation. Of course, it's not only used in this situation, but it's also a prevention measure for the occurrence of these diseases. Because cordyceps is one of the factors involved in immune regulation. Children often experience runny noses and coughs, which are most often associated with impaired function of the spleen, pancreas, and stomach. And this is related to the immunity of the mucous membranes. Not only do the lungs replenish energy, but the spleen and pancreas do as well. And for children who frequently have issues with runny noses and coughs, it is also very beneficial to use the elixir, along with products like Luwei tea, which we will discuss a little later, and rose fruit paste, Megi paste, which replenishes the barrier functions of the mucous membranes and helps strengthen the child's body. Cordyceps, as I mentioned earlier, has a very active effect on non-specific immunity, and by providing anti-inflammatory effects, it strengthens the kidneys. It is also effective in autoimmune diseases because since the kidneys control the immune system, this includes the adrenal glands, which cordyceps stimulates, promoting the production of hormones that regulate the anti-inflammatory function within the body. Cordyceps also, since its development cycle occurs in high altitude areas with very low temperatures and an oxygen-poor atmosphere, So, this ability of the fungus to survive in harsh conditions, and the component called adenosine, the products themselves help, thanks to cordyceps, to exhibit resistance to oxygen deprivation and physical exertion, which is very effective for those people who suffer from oxygen deficiency in tissues. This is relevant for ischemic heart disease, heart lesions, or people who are in the mountains, athletes who experience oxygen deficiency during intense physical exertion or when traveling to the mountains. Due to its effect on the bone marrow and spleen, cordyceps has anti-tumor properties, and its use depends. The dosage of the elixir depends on the body's level of intoxication. We will talk about this a little later. I already mentioned that it lowers cholesterol levels and is used for any chronic diseases. That is always. It has a beneficial effect on the genitourinary system, is effective for infertility, impotence, and has a rejuvenating effect, which should be started during the period when energy depletion occurs and the aging process becomes very active. Therefore, you can see how wide the range of action is for this wonderful, remarkable product. And naturally, the question arises, how is it best to use cordyceps? How to use cordyceps together with Lingji and shiitake. But let's talk a little more about Lingji, because Lingji is also a unique mushroom that is part of this elixir. It is also known as the mushroom of immortality, the imperial mushroom, Ganoderma or reishi. It belongs to the polypore family. And from a pharmacopoeia perspective, Lingji is considered more valuable than ginseng. Therefore, it is often called the divine herb in China, referred to as the herb of longevity, or the herb that grants eternal youth. Why is that? Because from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, Lingji uniquely energizes all 5 yin solid organs. That is, it simultaneously nourishes the heart, lungs, spleen, kidneys, and liver. And that's why it's a very valuable story, because there is no other plant in nature that simultaneously nourishes all 5 yin organs, our main energy reservoirs in the body, at the same time. In Chinese medicine, it is believed that if a person takes Lingji on a regular basis for a year, they will, such as, never develop cancer. That is the genes responsible for activating oncological processes simply do not get activated thanks to the regulatory actions of Lingji. Therefore, the first indication for using Lingji is the prevention and treatment of cancer. The second indication is that it has a beneficial effect on the nervous system by nourishing all the solid organs when the nervous system is depleted. And in the company Viveda, Lingji is released as a separate product as a regulator. These are the 2 regulators. This is the Lingji Forte, also known as Lingji brain capsules. So this is for cancer prevention, strengthening the nourishment of solid organs, and regulating the nervous system. Therefore, it is very actively used for insomnia. It is the main remedy for neurasthenia with Lingji. Also, when we talk about internal organs, it is used in the treatment of bronchial asthma and any chronic lung diseases, especially when there is little phlegm and when there is shortness of breath and a suffocating cough. Lingji, like cordyceps, is also used for chronic liver diseases, cirrhosis, and hepatitis, as well as an effective means for preventing the development of strokes and heart attacks. And when a stroke or heart attack has already occurred due to insufficient blood supply, that is, these are ischemic processes, it is effective for rapid recovery. And Lingji actively participates in this process along with the elixir. Lingji, like cordyceps, is also used for vision impairments. And with prolonged use, Lingji stops the decline in vision. Lingji is also used for any chronic diseases and for the recovery of the body after any acute condition, preventing the transition to a chronic state. How should these products be used then? Let's talk about the elixir first. Since these are two regulators, we will discuss how best to use them. Well, you see, the thing is, the usage depends on whether it's an acute situation or a chronic one. Are we preventing a disease, or are we already using it when there is a chronic disease in the exacerbation phase in order to bring it into remission? And let's then talk about how best to take this product at different age periods. That is, at what age and in what dosages to use it. If we are talking about acute diseases, such as acute viral diseases, adenoviruses, flu, then it might be a single or double dose of the elixir every 2 hours after the first dose. And this can be a sufficiently large dose to give an immune boost to the system to resist pathogenic energies, viruses, or bacteria that have entered the body. And the dosage can then be from 15 to 30 milliliters. That is, from 15 to 30 milliliters. And this can be used every 2 hours, up to 2 to 4 vials a day, depending if it is an adult, in order to prevent the penetration of the pathogenic agent inside and to mobilize the immune system to cope with this task. If we are talking about ENT diseases such as tonsillitis, sinusitis, otitis, then the product can be used also in acute situations when we use the elixir for 10, 14, 21 days in order to fight the infection with our own immune forces and restore the body, regulate the body, and expel pathogenic energies from the body. In this case, we then use the elixir 15 milliliters 30 minutes before meals, in the morning, before breakfast, and before dinner, up to 1 bottle in the morning, 30 minutes before meals, and in the evening, 30 minutes before meals. The thing is, the products are very active, and if you follow the recommendations written on our packaging, it states that you need to consume a full bottle, and this is recommended by Chinese specialists. The fact is, the elixir is in such an extraordinary bottle, which also has a unique design and shape, and is in a sterile state, in a highly concentrated dose. So an adult should, before consuming the product, shake it and take a small amount into the mouth, hold it in the mouth, because the effect of the elixir already, occurs through the mucous membrane of the oral cavity absorbing into the bloodstream. Hold it in the mouth and swallow, and the remaining dose then affects the mucous membrane of the digestive system, already absorbing into the bloodstream through the digestive system. The thing is, if we are talking about elixirs in general, they are absolutely safe. And we have some concerns in our minds regarding the intake of any product. Because although we say it is a biologically active product, it is not a medicine. It is a nutraceutical, which is an active cellular nutrition and regulator. And of course, it does not have the side effects that many pharmaceutical products have, where the annotations list indications and contraindications. Elixirs and any products from the company for herb, Vida have no contraindications. There is only an individual reaction to the use of the product. Why? Because each product is a unique diagnostic tool. when using the product, as soon as energy enters the body inevitably diagnoses at what level, in which part of the body there are disturbances, and this always manifests with certain symptoms, which we often call exacerbation, upon improved use of the product or reaction to improvement, because it is that diagnostic reaction that shows which system or organ is weakened. And therefore, there is nothing to worry about if you consume what you think is a slightly higher dose or not. The thing is, we are not talking about this as a medicine, but like any active product, initially, we still recommend taking the first few doses in small amounts. If it is an adult, then it is 5 milliliters, and then the amount that is in the bottle can be taken, not only through a straw, but it can also be taken with a syringe in the amount that we need. If this amount is 5 milliliters, then we can take it with a syringe in the amount of 5 milliliters. Here, and further increase the amount to the necessary quantity required for effective impact on the body. That is, it could be 5, 10 milliliters, 15 milliliters, up to a full vial per intake, which in fact is provided for in the annotation on the box as recommended by specialists in traditional Chinese medicine. That is, if it is an ENT pathology, we can start with 5, holding it in the mouth, as if rinsing the mucous membranes of the mouth, and then swallowing the solution. If you do this in the morning, it is better to first rinse the mouth and drink a small amount of warm water to clean the oral cavity and then take the elixir. The same applies to cardiovascular diseases. If a person has atherosclerosis, coronary cardiosclerosis, angina, ischemic heart disease, arrhythmia, or of course hypertension, then it should be consumed if it's the initial intake, starting with 5 milliliters, then 15 milliliters, 30 minutes before meals, or a whole bottle in the morning 30 minutes before meals. But if a person has poor sleep, feels shattered, and lacks energy in the morning, it can be taken before bedtime from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. during the activity of the triple heater meridian when the neuroendocrine system is being regulated. This will allow the evening intake to replenish yin energy, raise the energy level in the body, regulate the nervous system, and replenish the energy of the kidneys, liver, and lungs. These are the organs that are active at night. Problems with the digestive system: gastritis, chronic pancreatitis, enterocolitis, dysbiosis. In this case, we also use it, but for any chronic process, whether of the heart or the gastrointestinal tract, it may require from 5 boxes or 30 vials. That is, this is the minimum amount that needs to be used. And it's better to do this over 2 to 3 months with breaks. Such courses can be repeated up to 2 or 3 times a year. It is very beneficial to use elixirs during the transitional seasons, in the shifts between the winter period, the spring period, between the autumn period and the winter period, when the body requires sufficient energy to adjust to a different mode of energy functioning, when the yin and yang energies significantly change their activity. That is the period that requires additional resources from the body to maintain it in good condition. I already mentioned that liver diseases as well as hematological diseases, nervous system exhaustion, and allergic diseases are conditions that require using courses of the elixir several times a year for 2 to 3 months with breaks of 1 to 2 months. This is to nourish the body with energy, regulate it, and give it the opportunity to use the replenished energy for self-regulation and self-diagnosis during the free interval between intakes, which is also necessary. It is absolutely impossible to harm with this. It can only provide tremendous help. If the question arises about children, the dosages of the elixir may be different, and the elixir can be used for newborns, starting with 1 drop, which is 0.1 milliliters. And to determine if the child has any sensitivity, a skin test is conducted on the elbow bend when you apply a drop of the elixir and observe how the skin reacts. We say that the skin is an organ in traditional Chinese medicine associated with the lungs and the large intestine. It is immediately apparent how the body perceives it. And then, if there is no reaction, you can give 0.1 milliliters, that is 1 drop per month of life, adding 0.1 milliliters. And a 1-year-old child can already be prescribed 1 milliliter per day. That is, from 1 to 2 years, it is 1 to 2 milliliters. From 2 to 3 years, it is 2 to 3 milliliters. From 3 to 5 years, it is 3 to 5 milliliters. From 5 to 10 years, it is about 7.5, 1/4 of a bottle. From 10 to 13 years, up to 10 milliliters. And after 13 years, up to 15 milliliters. And starting from the end of adolescence, adult daily doses are prescribed. The maximum recommended for patients with severe oncological diseases is up to 120 milliliters per day, which is up to 4 bottles a day. Once again, I want to emphasize that the duration of using a Hathias elixirs is selected individually, depending on the person's condition, and the effect of using these fast-acting bioimmunoenergy regulators. However, if it is, let's say, a chronic disease or a weakened state of the body, the use should be for at least 2 months. It is essential to take breaks and monitor the person's condition, because people who start to feel energized when their mood improves, their vitality and life tone increase with the use of this product, and the condition of their internal organs improves. And when the exacerbation of a chronic process transitions into a prolonged remission, or when an acute illness subsides, they regard this product with immense gratitude and deep respect for the people who produced and, let's say, developed this unique, remarkable product. Well, let's talk a little more about Linji brain capsules. And you see that Linji brain capsules, we've already talked a bit about Linji, but I would like to discuss a little more about how to best use this product, in what dosages, because it is also a very active diagnostic. And it's no coincidence they are called brain capsules, because many patients or people who started using them shared certain sensations, saying that there was even a feeling of something moving in the head, as if the brain was settling into place, vision was clearing up, concentration was improving, and the state of memory was enhancing, because indeed they are called Lindsay brain capsules, as they primarily affect the nervous system, as we have already mentioned, the functioning of brain neurons, the production of neurotransmitters, and the restoration of lost connections, neural connections between neurons. Because besides cordyceps, besides Lindsay, which is part of the Lindsay brain capsules, it also includes Chinese cordyceps. And the package contains 24 capsules. And using this product, of course, improves the functioning of the nervous system, cognitive functions, reduces mental fatigue, and enhances concentration. It is used for vegetative vascular disorders, hypertension, vision deterioration, atherosclerosis, delayed mental development in children, memory impairment, systemic autoimmune diseases, degenerative diseases, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, stress conditions, depression, and epilepsy. But depending on the disease, the dosages and duration of intake can vary. As I mentioned, for cancer prevention, as Chinese specialists say, using this product for a year prevents oncological programs from becoming active. In general, you should start using it with 1 capsule. It can be taken 30 minutes before meals. It can be taken 30 minutes after meals, but not earlier. And it's good to use it during the periods of activity of those organs that need specific support. From the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, each organ has its time of activity and time of minimal activity during the daily cycle. And if we talk about the yang time, it's the first half of the day for people who have a lack of energy in the morning, who feel weak, exhausted, and inactive. It's good to take Lindsay in the first half of the day, starting with a capsule. And if there's weakened yin energy, a deficiency of kidney energy, then in the second half of the day, from 3 to 7 in the evening, no later, so as not to disrupt sleep. This is the time of activity for the bladder and kidney channels. That is 1 capsule in the morning, and then after some time, add another capsule after 3 in the afternoon. You can gradually increase the dosage to 2 capsules in the morning and up to 2 capsules in the evening, depending on what kind of disorder is present. If we are talking about degenerative processes, long-term disorders, in the cases I mentioned, it may involve using up to 4 capsules. But in the first days, it is necessary to use small doses because the product is diagnostic. It will definitely make itself known, and for the body to adapt to this regulation and gradually incorporate it into its regulatory process, the capsule can be opened, divided in half, and initially use half the dose in the morning and evening, then increase to 1 capsule twice a day, then up to 2 capsules with a maximum intake of up to 4 capsules a day. If we are talking about children, then it's a completely different story. The dosage for children is selected according to their age, and it is better to use it no earlier than 1.5 years old. That is, it is not recommended to use it before 1.5 years, after 1.5 years, up to 3 or 4 years. It can be 1/5 or 1/4 of the capsule's contents. From 4 to 8 years old, up to half a capsule twice a day. And from day 9 to 12, it can be 1 capsule a day. But it is still very individual because you need to observe how the child reacts and how they feel. And in stressful situations, students can use it for a short period to recover from fatigue, nervous exhaustion, intellectual exhaustion, and it's very good for exam preparation, for relieving stress tension, and for replenishing energy. As I mentioned, Lingzi replenishes all yin organs simultaneously. Regarding regulation, 2 products. Of course, I would also like to talk about cleansing. Cleansing is a very important element in the body's functioning. And if we talk about cleansing, there are a greater number of products here. And of course, we must talk about these products in a certain way, because cleansing our body is a very important process, as it is impossible without the replenishment of energy by the organs, which we mentioned. That is, without energy, the organs are not replenished, and then the cleansing process is impossible. In other words, there is no resourcefulness to carry it out. But once we have replenished and adjusted, of course, we must definitely start the cleansing process. And here, it is necessary to mention a product like the Sanking Elixir, which contains very important components that allow for the cleansing of the body's liquid environments, that is, the mucous membranes, lymph, all the internal liquid environments of our body and intercellular fluid, and restore the patency of the yang organs, which should be empty, hollow, passable, and perform their transport function. And what are these organs? These are mainly the organs of the digestive system. That is, our digestive tract should be completely empty and should perform its transport function. Now, if we talk about the Sanking Elixir, which has a green border and is called 4-herb Sancsin oral liquid, it contains very important components such as Hericium erinacus, also known as lion's mane, a mushroom that is unique in its properties. But besides being a nootropic, as mycologists believe, we know that the gut, the enteric nervous system, is the first nervous system that also affects the function of the human nervous system. And our clean mucosa, healthy gut flora, all passable internal tubes of the gastrointestinal tract, all ducts, and the intestine with a clean mucosa. This is the key to a healthy immune system, healthy microflora, and the body's ability to defend against the penetration of viruses and bacteria into the body. In addition to Hericium, there is aloe curacao, which contains about 160 active components and also helps the body fight viruses. It contains aloetin, allomycin, which also affect immunity and the development of cancer cells. Aloe stimulates the immune system, slows down aging processes, is effective for constipation, thus promoting intestinal cleansing. It serves as a prevention for oncological issues, mucosal disorders, the formation of polyps, and diverticula. Additionally, the Sanking Elixir contains oligosaccharides. These are high-quality water-soluble dietary fibers that positively affect the gastrointestinal tract and serve as nourishment for beneficial bacteria, particularly beneficial bifidobacteria. Such a product is also very good to use in courses lasting from 1 to 2 months 2 to 3 times a year. And if during the year, then during the waning moon over 70 days, when the body naturally expels toxins and waste, trying to rid itself of unnecessary components, how to take it? Well, the initial doses are again 5 milliliters to the body adapts, gets used to it, gradually increasing to 10, 15, 30 milliliters. And it is essential to take it 30 minutes before meals in the morning and evening. That is before breakfast and dinner. And if this is the initial intake, over the course of a month, it is no less than 5 boxes. 5 to 7 boxes for the initial intake, and then continue every month during the waning moon. For children, the doses should be smaller, as we have already mentioned, approximately like this, as it is an elixir for our ural liquid. If we are talking about cleansing and replenishing the microflora, then of course we must also mention the rose paste, Meigui paste. It is also known as the pink paste. These are, again, fructooligosaccharides, stachyoses and other oligosaccharides, which serve as nourishment for beneficial microflora. They are not absorbed or digested by the body and act as a prebiotic from 0 age to 120 years and beyond. Take a teaspoon before meals if constipated, dissolving in water, If the stool is normal, take during meals. And if there is diarrhea, take after meals in the morning and evening. If it is 0 age for small children, start with the size of a match head. That is a tiny drop and gradually increase, which eliminates the need for using simethicone, as children often already have dysbiosis at birth. These are children who have, let's say, suffered a microflora injury due to the mother's use of antibiotics, stress, or if the birth was not natural. This is common in small children. So you can start with the size of a match head, dissolving it in a spoonful of water, and give it to the small child. The amount of rose paste can be increased for children aged 3 to 5 years to half a teaspoon, and for adults a teaspoon or a dessert spoon 3 times a day. There is no such thing as too much rose paste. It can be a regular product that will keep the microflora in order and nourish your own bacteria, because probiotics are an art, artificially introduced. Bifido and lactobacilli colonies in the intestines often do not take hold. And in order for your own colonies to develop along the intestinal walls, they need to be fed with food, that allows them to grow independently. A unique, amazing product. And Chinese specialists say that if your microflora is sufficient, if the body is clean, then consuming rose paste can make your sweat smell like roses, and also your body will have a good regular stool, and the intestines will be grateful for consuming this wonderful product. If we talk about the cleansing system, of course, it's impossible not to mention Liwei tea, the tea of 6 flavors. It also acts as a diagnostic tool because the tea includes 3-year-old pu'er and a number of herbs that have a unique effect on the body. Of course, this includes chrysanthemum, honeysuckle, ginseng, cordyceps, and many other components. That's why it's called the tea of 6 flavors. Because when a person drinks this tea for the first time, the taste of the tea will be different for each person, depending on the imbalance within their body. Because each organ that is out of balance gives a particular taste. And if everything in the body is regulated and in order, The taste of this tea will be mild, warm, pleasant, and neutral. And the unique effect of this tea is that it cleanses not only the gastrointestinal tract, but also the blood and such serious conditions as hyperlipidemia, elevated fat levels in the blood, hyperglycemia, elevated blood, sugar levels, coagulation disorders, and blood viscosity disorders. That is, when the condition of the endothelial lining of the vessel is disrupted, when injury occurs, an inflammatory process, which is a factor in the atherosclerotic process that can damage vessels and impair their patency. This, of course, is the ability of this tea to remove multiple pathogens from the body. And so, for example, chrysanthemum, which is part of the tea, is capable of removing excess heat from the body as well as excess moisture and cold. And it energizes the organs and helps to remove formations inside the vessels or ducts, such as the formation of crystals, acids in the urinary system. Salts, for example, uric acid, which is characteristic of gout, or deposits around the joints, or what is related to joint fluids. This part especially aids in dissolving salts and removal, which helps impact the kidneys, the urinary system, and improves joint function. That is an amazing tea that removes excess heat, which regulates the permeability of blood vessels, and it is good for regulating blood pressure. Therefore, it is good to use both cold and warm. The brewing system of this tea is very important. That is, it should not be steeped with boiling water, but rather at about 85 to 80 degrees. The tea bag can be brewed 3 to 4 times, providing a progressively weaker concentration by the end of the day. It should be used until 19 or 18 hours, because the kidneys are active until 19 hours, now active from 17 to 19. And then, to avoid overloading the body with excess liquid and not to stimulate the process of dissolving and consuming water, it's better to drink tea in small portions throughout the day to cleanse the body. The exception, as with Elixirs and linseed, is related only to pregnancy. During pregnancy, during breastfeeding, be careful, as well as during the menstrual cycle in women, in girls, to avoid prolonging this cycle because it reduces blood viscosity, thins the blood. So as not to extend this cycle, it is not recommended to consume tea during this period. And of course, among the products worth mentioning for blood purification, Barfe. The unique product is Shuekinfu. She means blood. And Qi gives energy and makes it flow. But if the company had only this one product, Vivat, the company deserves immense gratitude, because this is truly a salvation for people, for the prevention of cardiovascular diseases, for those suffering from metabolic disorders, diabetes, and hypertension. And become, of course, the unique composition of this product lies in the fact that it includes the enzyme nattokinase. This is an enzyme that is used in the East, in Japan, Korea, China, in their diet. People use natto to prevent cardiovascular diseases. They have a very low percentage of this. How is this enzyme produced? It is the result of fermenting non-genetically modified soybeans and non-genetically modified Bacillus subtilis. As a result of the formation of natto and the fermentation of Bacillus subtilis, the enzyme nattokinase is produced, which is included in these amazing capsules. In addition, they contain bioflavonoids, antioxidants from red grape seeds, resveratrol, as well as antioxidants from Gynostemma pentaphyllum, a unique plant in China. And this combination allows for reducing blood viscosity, making the blood more passable without affecting its coagulation, which is actually dangerous for people who take aspirin. Here, the side effects of such anticoagulants and antiplatelets are internal. But the thrombolytic function of Shuekenfu has saved the lives of a large number of people and supports their health condition. They can be taken together with Lingji capsules if you take them after meals. 1 capsule of Shuekenfu, 1 capsule of Lingji, gradually increasing to 1 more capsule of Lingji and Shuekenfu in the second half of the day. The maximum dose of Shuekenfu is 2 capsules in the morning, 2 capsules in the afternoon. That is, everything is gradual, everything is slow, so that the body can adapt, respond, and there are no sudden manifestations of reaction to improvement. That is, starting with 1 capsule. After 3 to 5 days, you can add another capsule, observing the person's condition. Use carefully if the person is taking any medications that affect blood clotting. In this case, it is necessary to consult a doctor, with the doctor who prescribes such medications to patients who are already taking them. And the third group of products is replenishment. I also want to say that even if we prescribe regulators, purifiers, they all have the ability to both cleanse and replenish. The question is only about the emphasis. Which product has which emphasis? But they all work in 3 directions, but with different emphasis. If we are talking about the elixir, Sanbao, oral liquid, these are the 3 treasures for the soul, spirit, and body. That is where there is a much higher content of cordyceps and lingzi. That is, there is an increased concentration of these magnificent mushrooms, but it also contains an extract from mountain black ants of the Roger type. In each bottle, there are about 300, also a high-tech product. And why replenishment? Because this product includes regulation and cleansing, but also addresses severe diseases with immune response disorders, autoimmune processes such as degenerative diseases, bronchial asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes mellitus, autoimmune thyroiditis, and vasculitis. Of course, such a more concentrated product is very good to use in combination with the elixir and the entire range of cleansing products. You can alternate these products, but I want to say, from the practice of using more than 3 or 4 products, it's not necessary to prescribe them so that the body can respond and independently reach a state of regulation, because the goal of using all our products is to help the body replenish energy and assist it in self-diagnosis, self-regulation, and self-replenishment. And here's another product I'd like to mention for the body's self-replenishment. It's a unique mineral complex that contains calcium, zinc, selenium, and iron. This particular combination provides the opportunity to supply the body with all the missing vital elements necessary for the functioning of the kidneys, immune system, hormonal system, and blood, so that it can work efficiently. Well, I think there's a lot more that can be said. I am very grateful to you. I would be delighted to visit you if the opportunity arises. We can talk about this, about our products, for a long time. One can speak with great affection, but I am very grateful to the Veda Corporation, grateful to the scientists and researchers. I am grateful to our wonderful partners who respond, provide feedback, use the products with love, and share information. And I wish you a great time at your event, wishing you all the best, good health, immense happiness, and success in our wonderful work. Thank you. Until we meet again.